Okay, I wanted to talk to you today about when you're selecting a house to be built in ST.KITTS or NEVIS. One thing I would tell you that save you a lot of headaches is number one is, I would say 98% of the time I would be getting a house that's already built. Don't get one that's where you're having to build it yourself. And there's a lot of reasons for this. One is, and I put this on other videos, but it's been a long time since I've done this, is what you'll find out in ST.KITTS. Every place is different, but what you'll find out in ST.KITTS is it's a lot cheaper to get existing homes per square foot than it is typically to buy a new house. Okay, it's not just that, the headaches that you deal with on getting a new house can be just tremendous. And I'm going to tell you some problems that you're going to have when you get a builder to come in and build. And a lot of the stuff you won't figure out till after you've gotten it built. And some of your biggest headaches in the Caribbean is getting what I call responsible building contractors. Not just the builder, but the contractors he's picking, because he can't overlook the subcontractors 100% of the time. You know, he should, but most of people don't. And you know, he would have to be looking constantly at all of them, and most of them just won't do it. And so if you get something that's already built, then what's happened is the guy that built the house, he's dealing with the problems. In most cases, he's going to get all that stuff fixed, but let him deal with the headaches, not you. And most people don't think about stuff like this, but it's not just that. What's happened is we've had a huge amount of inflation that's occurred over the last 4 or 5 years. And what you're going to find out, it's not just labor that's gone up a lot, but you're looking at lumber, concrete, everything's gone up a lot. And see, a lot of times homeowners don't price that in on their house. But new building contractors, they have to buy those materials, so they just pass it down to you. So you're going to have to pay for all that. And man, it's a lot more to build a new house than to get an existing one, not including the headaches you're going to have to deal with. But I still see people building new homes in ST.KITTS, which is just, I don't think they're doing enough checking around to see how much difference the cost would be. I saw a house down the road on a guy who's adding on a lot on his house, and he'd been better off just getting a house that's already built with the square footage that he wanted, instead of adding all that on, because he's going to have a hard time getting that money out. He's going to have to basically carry that house for years to get a good rate of return. And you got to remember, in ST.KITTS, you got a 10% stamp duty when you sell the house. The seller has to pay for. And I was talking to a guy just the other day, and I mentioned this in other videos also. It's one of the dumbest moves, but people do it all the time, is they'll get the donation option for citizenship, pay $250,000, and they think what's happening is they lower their chances of picking what they want, because they think the citizenship zones or what properties qualify for citizenship puts them out of a market of what they want to choose. That's totally incorrect. In fact, most of your good buildings that are quality buildings are in citizenship zones. They're not in areas that are not qualified for citizenship. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been some places where they didn't do right. Okay, that's why you need to know what you're doing. That's why you got a company like us. We know the players down here, the ones that have done a good job and the ones that have not. And I'm going to tell you some things that you need to look for, whether it's a new house or one that's, if you're building your house, things you better look for, which I wouldn't advise you do anyway, getting a new house. But if you're going to do it, these are things you got to look for. Or if you're getting a house that's already built, because these are things that people won't look for and notice. But the cost, like I said, is a huge difference, and most people don't do enough checking to really realize the difference in that. And I mean, it's a huge difference. I've seen houses that sold, and back, one other thing, back to this thing I want, citizenship that I want to mention, is when you pick, for instance, like this guy I was talking to, he wanted the citizenship totally separate from selecting the property, when that's just incredibly, I won't maybe call it stupid, ignorant. I don't want to call the guy stupid, but he evidently didn't know what he's doing, because the problem is when you get citizenship with the property, you pay $25,000 for one person, okay? That's the government fee. With the donation option, you're looking at $250,000. That's 10 times more money that's coming out of your pocket. And I've seen people get the donation option, then come down and buy a citizenship property that they could have gotten with their regular citizenship and only pay $25,000 government fee instead of $250,000. You would think people would sit down and look at the figures on this, but they don't. It's incredible. You would think somebody spending this much money would dissect it a little bit better. But also, let's say this guy right here I was talking to, let's say he buys a property that doesn't qualify for citizenship. That's what he's looking for, is a property that didn't qualify for citizenship, because he already got his citizenship, let's say, and he wanted to buy the property separate, and it had nothing to do with citizenship. This is the problem with that. When you turn and resell it, and I've already given these figures out a long time ago, but I'll give them to you again, you need to drill this in your head. Is we got this, one of the top people dealing with registry. This is back in 2014. It's pretty much the same. This ratio will not change a lot. But for every 50 properties that sold for citizenship, only one property sold in the Federation outside citizenship. Now those figures will be different, but I can tell you this, the citizenship properties were a lot more that are being sold than the ones that aren't qualifying for citizenship. So what you end up having, that's the market you're pulling yourself out of at the time that you turn around and resell your property. So here's this guy. He's got his donation option he paid $250,000 for. Now he's looking for a property that he can get that's maybe outside the citizenship zone. But guess what? When people come in with money, that's not what they're looking for. Most of the properties that are being sold here are sold for citizenship, so he's losing that market. This is the part I'm talking about. And this is where people make up so many mistakes, is they don't understand they're losing out on that market when they choose and they do it this way. Now, let me tell you something else when you're getting a house built, okay? Because this is another thing that you need to be aware of. Mosquitoes are a little bit bad out here tonight. Is when you're getting a house, one thing I've noticed is a real problem here in St. Kitts, building contractors do. You would think it'd be pretty simple. You take a leveler and you check different sections of the floor to make sure it's level. There's a real problem with developers here, some are worse than others, on floors that are not level. You would think there wouldn't be problems with that. This is another reason why if you get a new house, you want to make sure that guy's got a good building reputation. You don't want him to be, I mean, I can tell you all kinds of nightmares I've gone when you go in the house, the level of the floor is so bad, you can feel it when you walk. I mean, that's what you don't want. And there's no excuse for that, you know. But this is what happens when you have haphazard building contractors. You know, I have some people that come to St. Kitts, they look for the cheapest, the guy that will do the cheapest building per square foot, and they don't realize that that guy that gave them that bid is so unrealistic, he might have been on his last meal, okay? So he's trying to do everything he can to get the business, including giving a figure that's totally unrealistic. He can't build the house for that price. But yet the sucker that comes down, that's trying to get it down to zero, okay, he didn't realize the headaches he's going to have down the road in getting a house built from that guy, okay? That's why you need to know the good building contractors are ones that have done a good job, not just if you're not going to do a new house, but even if you're going to buy an existing house, who built that house? You know, if it was built 20 years ago, who was the builder for that? You know, that's another thing you want to look at. That a lot of people just don't check this stuff out, and they don't realize that the headaches, I mean, that you could be buying yourself into there. And I'll tell you something else too that you have is a lot of builders in the Caribbean. They're really bad about if you get like a split level house, for instance, and there's problems, let's say, with the lower floors because they didn't get the lower floor built higher than the bottom of where the crawl space comes down. Then you're going to have water coming up from your floors. You've got to have people that know what they're doing in building. And some people, and I'll tell you one thing you can check. If the guy can't show up on time or doesn't return enough promptly, I certainly wouldn't hire him to do your house. But there's more people that's another headache sign that you see right off the bat, is when a guy is very haphazard in trying to get stuff back to you in a quick period of time. Doesn't show up, and this is the problem you'll see is when you try to get a house built. You might run a situation where it takes 4 or 5 years to build it, and then you're in a lawsuit with somebody. I had one lady that asked me, I kept telling her, I said, don't get a house built. Use one that's already built. She wouldn't listen to me. I saw her maybe several years down the road. She came up to me one time when I was downtown. She said, damn, I wish I had taken your advice. She says, I'm in a lawsuit with my builder. And to make a long story short, she was tied up. That house, I don't know how long it took to get finished. Maybe 7 years. I don't even know. I think she went through 3 builders. It was a nightmare. And no telling what she ended up spending in courts and stuff like that. And I'll tell you something. Not only is it slow everything down here, it's slow in the court system. I mean, you can go out a long time dealing with the courts here, and the appeals will take forever. You don't want to, these are things that that you want to try to stay away from. You know, you just don't want to have to deal with this type of headaches, and most people just don't look at stuff like this and know how to get around it, the problems. Another problem you have too, building contractors. Here, I'm just going to tell you some of the things I run into. You know, you might have a hole between the crawl space and the house itself, the finished area. That is a ticking time bomb for termites. And you have building contractors who just blatantly leave holes blank. And that hole, I guarantee you, there'll be termites coming up in that hole to your house from the crawl space. So you got to make sure these guys are efficient about. You would think, that builders would be smart about this, but they're not. Okay, and these are some things the contractors down here, they just don't try to pay attention to. I'll tell you something else too, is blocks being filled up in the wall. You don't have those blocks filled up right, you're going to have all kinds of leaks coming through your wall. You got to make sure those blocks are in right. And I tell you something, if you get a guy that's doing that, he's not doing that correctly, you're going to have a nightmare, especially if you're dealing with concrete. And you want to deal with concrete because of hurricanes down here. Concrete will go through anything, any type of storm. And that's what you want. But the problem is you want to make sure it's done correctly. And this is something that a lot of people just don't look at. Another thing is roof problems. You got to make sure that I like gabaloon. You know, a lot of people like concrete as a roof. The problem with concrete, if you get a guy that puts in the concrete and that mixture is not done correctly, you can have cracks and leaks from that. I like gabaloon the best, but some people want other stuff. It's very, very resistant. It can last you 20 or 30 or 40 years, you know. Some gabaloon, I mean, it takes forever. It depends on how close you are to the ocean also. But the key is I would get something, again, that's already built. This will really take a lot of headaches away from you, and keep you from having problems, in the future if you're able to go in and see where the house is. Plus something else too is, if the house is already built, you can see what's in front of you. You're going to a new development, you don't know, it might have a great view, and all of a sudden, they've had to make changes in that development. All of a sudden you're blocked out of a great view. I've seen this happen a lot. That's the thing that's nice about, there's a house already in front of you especially, and then you're buying the house, you can see exactly what your view is. Just a lot of things that people don't think about. And I'll tell you something else, if you come to St. Kitts, whatever you do, don't buy in the northern part of the island. Buy the southern part. I would not buy in the southeast peninsula. It's too overpriced, way overpriced. It's pretty down there. It's the driest part of the island. Your best deal, of course, everything's going to be based on what you buy and sell your property for, but by far your best deal is I think for appreciation is in Frigate Bay, provided you buy at the right price. Now, another thing about Frigate Bay too, you don't get citizenship, and you're buying Frigate Bay, you don't have to pay the land alien holder license, whereas almost every other place of the island, if it's not citizenship approved property, you're going to have to pay a 10% alien holder license fee if you're not a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, unless you are a citizen of one of the Eastern Caribbean Union countries. You still have to file the land alien holder license, but you don't have to pay the 10% tax for that. But you'll have people that will go in and they'll buy property that's not titled property, that will not qualify to be resold for citizenship, and they think they've done a great deal. They've done a thing that's great for them, but in the end what happens is it's a bad deal, because what ends up happening, if it's not titled property, when they resell it, it will never get approved for citizenship. And that's exactly what this guy was doing. You want to make sure that property is going to be approved for citizenship when you buy it. Otherwise, you're going to be out of that market that's a 51 odds of selling it. Because again, like I told you before, for every 50 properties that sold in 2014, only one property sold outside of citizenship. So if you don't qualify for citizenship, you're out of that 50-to-1 ratio to resell your property once you resell it. Folks, if you can do us a big favor too, we don't monetize this channel. It would help us a lot. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. And also hit the subscribe button at the right of your screen right here, and you'll get new videos automatically as they come out. And I would like to hear from you. If you got a question or comment, put it below. If you want to legally get your income taxes to zero, how to get a second passport as quick as 4 to 8 months, go to our website, www.citizenshipquickly.com, and just ask for some help. And I look forward to talking to you in the next video. Take care.